Hello, mamas. We are so excited for you to be joining us because we are wanting to celebrate motherhood with you. And in motherhood comes many different aspects. And the one that we're going to focus on today is health and nutrition, your health, your kids' health, your family's health, and what has worked for me, my family, my good friend Marissa and her family story, and Sarah and her family story as well. So we're going to be talking today about some of the struggles that we as moms have, some of the struggles our children have had, and then help you find solutions to some of those issues as well. And I'll be sharing my story later on, but I wanted to first introduce you to Sarah. Sarah and I met probably a good 10 years ago, and her family story is so encouraging because it's all backed up. Their health transformation is all backed up because of the changes they made in whole food nutrition. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Sarah, and let you share your story.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. So here's some pictures of my family. The one on the left, that's my entire family. So my husband, Chris, my son, Josiah, and then I have twin boys, Jordan and Caleb. And so our health journey kind of starts with Jordan. He's one of my twin boys. He's almost 11 now, but his struggles kind of started when I would say around 2. Honestly, the first thing that he struggled with was that he would just get severely constipated. And it was a huge struggle for him. And when I say constipated, I mean he would maybe go to the bathroom once a week. I don't think it started as that. I think he maybe went a little more frequently, but over time it just kind of got worse and worse and worse. He would spend hours, sometimes days just trying to go to the bathroom, and he couldn't. He then developed, it probably was food allergies, but then we made the connection later on. Dairy really messed with his stomach. We figured out he had a severe gluten allergy. We never did have him tested for celiac disease, but if he ate gluten, it was immediately he would be sick. So I homeschool my boys, but him more than my other two, he was very chronically sick. So if there was a stomach bug going around, I have no idea how, but he would catch it. If strep throat was going around, Jordan would catch it. If the flu was going around, Jordan would catch it. He always would get that croupy cough, several times a year. And we literally planned our lives around how he was feeling. Traveling was very hard. For most people, traveling is difficult. Your stomach kind of gets out of whack and you don't feel great. Well, it was sometimes debilitating for Jordan. And I can remember taking my oldest son overseas for the first time and just thinking, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to take Jordan with us because he gets so sick every time we travel. And so the picture on the right is Jordan, and this was when he was 8 years old. His health had just rapidly decreased. Nobody could figure out what was going on. We went to specialists here. We went to specialists in Lubbock. We were trying everything that we could, and we really weren't getting any answers. Well, we finally figured out at this point that Jordan's gallbladder was completely infected and it was making him sick. And so at 8, he had his gallbladder removed and his appendix removed. And they said, well, this should help, some of his problems. And it made zero difference. And so they said, well, we're just going to watch. We're going to see what happens and just see what progresses from there. As a mom, trying to raise happy, healthy kids, this was devastating. It was awful to see him always struggling, not being able to run down the soccer field because he was in pain, or, not jumping on the trampoline with the other boys because it hurt too much. There was always something going on. And so it's at this point that we found out about a functional medicine doctor in Lubbock, which is just 2 hours from where we live. If you're not familiar with functional medicine, they want to focus on getting to the root cause of what's wrong with your body. So Jordan's little body, even though doctors said, oh, it's normal, some kids are just constipated. Well, that's not normal. That's not the way his body is meant to function. It's not the way our bodies are meant to function. But functional medicine really focuses on nutrition. I had actually heard about them several years before, And when I looked it up, I was like, no way. There's no way that we can make these kind of changes with our food. He's young, like he just needs to eat whatever he wants, right? That was kind of my mindset. But after his surgery, I was done. I'm like, okay, we can't do this anymore. We have to make some changes. And so we started seeing this functional medicine doctor. And so most Americans eat highly processed food. We shop the interior of the grocery store, and that was definitely our family. Corn dogs and cereal and bagels and, all this kind of stuff. So we switched to kind of a whole food type nutrition. And of course, none of us were eating enough fruits or vegetables because nobody does. And so we really started focusing on these whole foods. And his health, it dramatically got better. And it was very, very quickly and so encouraging because these weren't easy changes for us to make. And especially for an 8-year-old to have to say no to so many things to get better, but he has. So there's an article from Time Magazine that was posted several years ago. And it says, the news isn't that fruits and vegetables are good for you. It's that they are so good for you, they can save your life. Now, Jordan was not at this point in a life or death situation, but I will say increasing what I was putting in his body has turned his health around really good. One thing we learned is when we started with functional medicine, I just started ordering books and listening to podcasts and anything that I could get my hands on, I would listen to and just try and learn as much as I can. And I started learning about how our fruits and vegetables are made today. And even our doctor, he talks about this all the time. So most of the vegetables and fruits that we find in the grocery store, they're mass produced. And so they've lost a lot of their nutritional value. One thing that Dr. Ben, our doctor, says, he says, if you have a freshly picked green bean, it was grown in good conditions, it wasn't sprayed with pesticides, the soil was good, all the things that should be there. If you take that green bean and it's picked at its peak ripeness, if you set it on your counter, in 7 days, it's lost 70% of its nutrition. Mm. And so this slide right here says that some varieties have lost 5% to a whopping 40% of their nutrient content. And if you think about it, I live in West Texas. We don't have an abundance of fresh fruits and vegetables here. They're shipped in from somewhere. Well, most of the time, those are picked way early. And so some of the basic nutrition that we need, we get that in the last few days of it becoming ripe, okay? And so we're not getting some of those things that we need. And when I was little, I think it was like eat 5 servings of vegetables and fruits a day. And now they're saying you need 7 to 13 servings. Well, that's because we don't have the nutrition in them that we need. And so if we're not getting them from what we need, most people are like, okay, and this is where my mind went as we started with this functional medicine. If you have a chronic condition, you're supposed to have at least 10 servings of raw vegetables every day. Raw. So how am I supposed to do that with an 8-year-old? Okay. We were doing better and we still continue to try and do better, but we just weren't close. So do we turn to a multivitamin? Because that's what most people tend to do. So you can go to the grocery store and you can find, this is just an example. Okay, now this is probably not something I would give Jordan because it's 1-a-day women's, but this is something that I might give myself, okay? I'm learning about the importance of this, so I know Jordan probably needs something. My other kids need something. I need something so that I can take care of them and prepare food the way that I need to do. So what do? Okay? The problem with things like these is that, first of all, it's a chemical. It's not really a food. And so our bodies don't really know what to do with it. And they take those, they're trying to think, okay, we want some vitamin C. So let's do a chemical rendition of this. And let's take this vitamin. Let's take this nutrient. And they try to do it, okay? So this jar right here represents the nutrients that you would find in a serving of your typical multivitamin. Okay, so there's about 35 to 50 isolated nutrients in each of those vitamins. That's it. Okay, and they say at best, maybe our body can only absorb about 8 to 10% of this. So are we really doing ourselves any good by taking a multivitamin? Now let's look at the difference between an isolated nutrient, which is what these are. These are isolated nutrients, and let's look at whole food nutrition, okay? Each of these beads would represent the nutrients that are found in one apple, okay? And if you look here on this slide, they're kind of labeled out for you. Now you can't read them, and you probably couldn't even read them if you could read them, because it's a bunch of sciencey words that we don't understand. But these are the nutrients that are in an apple, okay? 10,000 nutrients in one apple. The good thing with this is when we take something like this, our body knows exactly what to do with it. When we take this chemical rendition, our body's like, oh, I don't really know what this is. I don't know how to use it. What do I do? When we eat an apple, our body can take each of these nutrients and it knows exactly where to put them to better serve us in our health. So we started making some changes. I knew that my son wasn't getting enough fruits and vegetables. I knew I wasn't getting enough fruits and vegetables. So we started making these changes, but it was not with a multivitamin. So I'm going to let Marissa take it over, and she's going to tell you about what her family did and how they moved away from the multivitamins.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I was, for my whole life, multivitamins. That's what we did. I just thought, and I even, when I learned about all of this nutrition, I thought, well, I need another multivitamin. I was out of our vitamins. And so that's kind of, and I'll tell more of that later, but they weren't doing a whole lot of good. And I've tried and spent a lot of money on them until I turned to whole food nutrition. That's when our family's health, and I mean like all of us, when we were able to turn things around. And so this is a picture of my husband and me when we were traveling, and then on the left side, my kids. This is a little bit of an older picture, year and a half or so, maybe a year. But this is Ian, our oldest. He's 14 now, and then Mia, who is now 11, Olivia, and she is almost 7. Next week she'll be 7. And Nina, the very smallest one, who's 4. And I didn't realize, I knew that I was struggling with some health issues. I knew that, my daughter Mia had some. Didn't know we collectively were kind of a mess until we started to feel better. And I noticed the small changes. The longer that we've been making these changes, the more that I see and feel within our family. So I just want to tell you a little bit about my story personally, and then about my kids and my husband. But I was, as you can see, I'm a mom of 4. My husband travels. He's got a busy job, makes him travel quite a lot, and sometimes it's internationally, and it's just almost every week at times, and it's just kind of sporadic. And we have a busy family. I've got 4 kids. They all play competitive sports and busy life, and I was just doing it just everything I can just to get through the day. If they were fed and they're alive, that's a win. They're clean. But I was not really enjoying my life. I wasn't enjoying just motherhood, and my husband, my relationships were suffering. And that's because I was dealing with mental health issues. I had, and I would never, ever would talk about it during the middle of it, but I had severe depression, and that brought some anxiety too. And the things that brought me joy didn't anymore, even music, my family. And I couldn't figure out why I just couldn't be happy. And it was a real struggle. And I had a short temper with my kids, and I just wasn't enjoying my life that I should. And I have a beautiful life. And so I turned to medications, finally broke down and took some antidepressants that just never made it feel better. I felt flatlined. I felt totally numb. I didn't feel happy or mad. Nothing really mattered. I just kind of got through the day. And I did that off and on because it made me feel shaky, because it's a drug, and I felt drugged. It didn't sit well with me. So I just continued to suffer through the mental health issues and struggled. On top of that, I have Hashimoto's. So my hair was breaking and falling out by the handfuls and thinning. My eyebrows were thinning and my eyelashes. And I have fibromyalgia, so I was dealing with chronic pain. So 2017 is when everything kind of came to a head. And I had chronic pain, sometimes in a migraine, my neck, just about everywhere in my body, joints and muscles. And to the point where it was debilitating, and I almost dropped my little babies and had struggled cooking dinner or holding a pen or even driving. And so it wasn't a good place to be. And so I knew when we ran out of our vitamins, I was like, okay, we'll try this, this whole food nutrition. And it's made a huge impact. I no longer struggle with the pain. I don't have to struggle with those symptoms. I'm pain-free. I'm not depressed. I'm happy and living life the way it should. I felt like I found myself, and I came back to life, and that's really been amazing. And that's my story. But my kids and my husband, my husband was struggling with blood pressure issues and cholesterol and really, really high liver enzymes, to the point where the doctor said high enough it could be cancer. And he now has been able to normalize his blood pressure, cholesterol, and the liver enzymes. All the blood work came back clean, and he was able to lose about 20 pounds in the process. And my cute two little girls are prone to croup, and we've done the late night ER visits and where they're not breathing, which is really scary. And they're healthier than they've ever been. And my son Ian has allergies and eczema. Well, he did. The allergies are a lot better than they used to be. They were really severe, and he rarely has to take anything for that now. And his eczema, the size of grapefruits behind his knees, has cleared up, which took some time, but they're gone. There's not even any scarring anymore from that. And my daughter, Mia, my oldest daughter, has arthritis. And this has been the real struggle. As a parent, you hate to see. It's one thing if you're sick, but when it's your children, as Sarah was talking about, it's heartbreaking. And it's so frustrating to feel like you just want answers and you just want to take their pain away. And she was diagnosed at 4 years old with idiopathic juvenile arthritis. And we don't have that in our family. We were really kind of in denial. We went a whole year not knowing what was going on with her until the MRI came back. And so she's been dealing with that for most of her life, and she's only 11. And so what we found out, it's been like a year and a half or so, the fall of 2017, was that the arthritic fluid in her wrist had actually eaten away at the bone and caused bone damage. And that's what you don't want. You don't want the bone on bone, because that's where it becomes really painful. And obviously you don't want that. And so we did medicine for a short time. What the rheumatologist recommended is Enbrel. And what it does is it lowers the immune system to lower the inflammation. But what that did was make her susceptible to everything. Her immune system was compromised, and she was getting sick all the time. So we did the Enbrel shot weekly, very inconsistently. I wouldn't even say weekly. You're supposed to do it weekly, but she'd get so sick that I'd have to stop and postpone it. So only for the first couple of months or so of that year. And then, because I felt so sick to my stomach about it, we decided to just do the natural way and just eliminate things that we thought were inflammatory for her and flood her little body full of good nutrition. And we found out a year later from that point that she was able to go into remission, not just remission, but that the bones actually regrew and repaired themselves. They repaired themselves. The body knows what to do when you give it what it needs. And that, when I got the phone call from the rheumatologist, I just was in tears, because she's been able to live pain-free and just enjoy the things that she does, soccer, and just be a kid. So this is my story, and this is going to lead into talking about what it is we did and what it is that Sarah did, and what's really made the biggest impact for us. It's all of this plant power, the plant nutrition. And I always knew it was important to be healthy. Like, you got to get your fruits and vegetables, you need to get your grains. And but I didn't really understand the importance of getting enough of them every day, and I mean, I had an overload of sugar in my system. I know that for sure, which was causing damage, and not enough of the good stuff. So this is what we did. We started with the red, green, and purple, and we got 30 fruits and vegetables into our little family. And I was like, what? Kids eat free? Okay, well, I'll start. We started as a family. And so with the Healthy Starts for Families program, we got that for our children for free. And what I love so much is that you look at this, these are not all things that you're going to get every day. And who is going to get 30, a variety of 30, all of these different colors of nutrients every single day into their bodies and their children's little bodies? I mean, mushroom. And the thing that I love is the orange, for example. 80% of the vitamin C is found in the peel of the orange, but we don't eat the peel because it's so bitter, right? So with this, you're getting everything. You're getting the peel and the seeds and all that into your little bodies, your family's bodies. And so this really is another thing that I didn't start with this right away. This is another thing we added in, and I am so thankful we did, because I feel like this is it had a huge impact on my daughter too, with her arthritis and with my fibromyalgia, and just with brain fog. As a mom, like that's something I really struggled with, especially if they call it fibro fog when you have fibromyalgia. But it's been helping my hair grow. Like I said, it was falling out, and it's growing really fast now. And it's healthy and strong, and it's all of these omegas. And what I love is that it bypasses the fish, so you don't have the fish smell or the fishy burps or taste. And it takes three or four fish to get an ounce of oil, which is a crazy amount of fish. And so they go straight to the food source, the algae. And it's a wonderful blend of omegas 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9. And I just can't say enough about this. And then here is what makes Juice Plus unique. So you're getting, when you add in the shakes, and that's what we ended up doing too, which I love, and my kids will have these for lunch, and I feel good about it because it's a really good source of protein, but gluten-free, dairy-free, low glycemic, and full of plant nutrients, those phytonutrients that Sarah was talking about. Everything has a food label. So she talked a little bit about the vitamins. These don't have a supplement label like the vitamin does. This actually has a nutrition label, because the FDA considers it food, because that's exactly what it is. It's just food with the water taken out of it. And third party, so one question I had was, well, is it organic? It's NSF certified, which is even better. And when I first heard that, I didn't quite understand that, but it's really cool if you realize what NSF certification is. It's third party quality assurance, meaning that it's tested for the molds and bacteria and pesticides and herbicides and all of those toxic chemicals you don't want in your body. And I know that it's safe because of that. And Stacy will talk more about this. So, and I want to say, when I started to feel better, when I realized that I was living pain-free, and that I was coming out of the depression fog, and that I was feeling happier and just loving my life, and I felt like I was getting back to myself, and then seeing it happening in my children and my husband, I got really excited about it and thought, what is this? And so I looked more into the research, and it says here 35, but there are actually 38 clinical published studies that have been done, and we have more underway, which makes me really excited, because this is proof of what it's doing in the body. And Stacy is going to share more about the research, and then you're going to hear her awesome story too. So thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so when we first heard about Juice Plus, my son, he's on the left. He was about 15 months old at the time, maybe 14 months. I can't really remember, but he was little. I was frustrated because he wasn't eating anything but canned green beans. He had done good as a little guy eating vegetables, and it was like he got pickier and pickier, and then it got to where he was only eating these canned green beans. And I knew that wasn't enough. I knew that wasn't enough nutrients, because he was also getting sick a lot. My husband was sick a lot, and I'll share his story in a minute. But Colin seemed to catch everything that he had, even though he stayed home with me and he wasn't around a lot of other kids. And it wasn't just like he would catch a cold. We're talking about, we were having to use nebulizers, and he got sick one time, throwing up so much that we had to go to the emergency room because he was throwing up blood. He had sinus infections. Like, it was ridiculous. And my thought process was, I take him to the doctor to get him well. And I really had not thought of, what's my role as his mom, and what can I do to build his immune system? And so he had a rash on his face. You can't really see it in that picture, but we just couldn't get rid of it. We went to allergists, dermatologists, and really frustrated to try to figure out what was causing this, and nobody really had an answer. I remember they gave me a cream to put on his face that was later found to cause leukemia in children, and thankfully we didn't use it, because it was right at that time we were introduced to this concept of fruits and vegetables in a capsule and a gummy, and I was like, we're going to do this first. I really wanted to see if that would make a difference. And we just started with that. I would open the capsule into either maybe something like applesauce or even into a sippy cup. I would just shake it up and I would give it to him. And we started seeing some changes in him and in his face, and as it started to clear up. And then we started making other dietary changes as well. And it really was partly the research that made us say, okay, let's do this. And we knew we wanted to have more kids. And I had really struggled during pregnancy with him. I gained a lot of weight. I was constipated the whole time. The prenatals made me very nauseous. I would gag them down. I would make myself take them, but I didn't feel good, and I would get constipated from them. I had terrible hemorrhoids, and I just didn't like how I felt on them. And I would stop taking them. And then I would get to where I was a little bit more regular and I would feel better. Then I'd feel so guilty, worried that I wasn't getting the nutrition that I needed to be able to give him the right nutrition. And so I would make myself start taking them again. And it was just this ugly 3-week cycle over and over again. I had the mindset, I'm eating for 2, even though I thought I was eating healthy. I wasn't. And I gained a lot of weight with him, probably close to 50 pounds with him. And at the end of that pregnancy, I was very puffy. I was swollen. My face looked very puffy. My body did, because I had gained that much weight. And after he was born, I had to work it off. I had to exercise and get rid of that. And I struggled to get back to my normal weight from before him. And so I was thinking future too. Okay, what could this nutrition mean to me in our pregnancies as we go along? And just a couple of months later, after we started taking juice, maybe 3 months later, I was pregnant with our second child. So that she's the one sitting on my lap in the other picture. And very different pregnancies with her, because I didn't take the prenatal vitamin. I just took Juice Plus, and over time I increased how much of that I was taking. I didn't deal with constipation. I felt so much better, but more energy. I just felt like I was healthier overall with her. We went through a move. I transitioned well with that. The kids both, did, and I had her. She was born 5 weeks early. I go into early labor with all of them about 30 weeks for who knows why. She was born 5 weeks early, and she came home with us 2 days later, like no problems at all. And they were saying, she is so strong. She is so healthy. She's doing so good. And I know that that made a difference for her tiny little body, that I was healthy and that she was healthy. And I was so glad I had had that nutrition, and then I had not struggled nutrition wise. I gained way less weight with her. Like, I wasn't puffy at the end of the pregnancy, nothing. So you might think, well, that's because she was born 5 weeks early. Okay, so fast forward, just Ansley would have been about 10 months old when I got pregnant with our third. So when Brielle was born, I'm pregnant with her in that picture, Colin was only 3. Like, they were stacked in there so close together. And I had the best pregnancy with Brielle. I gained the least amount. I carried her the longest. She weighed the most. And I felt the best with her. And I really had the most energy with her. I felt strong the whole pregnancy. I never dealt with any sort of postpartum depression. And that's not typical when you have 3 right in a row. Typically, your body's so depleted by the time you have, more and more kids, then your brain is like, it doesn't have the nutrients it needs anymore, and that can lead to postpartum depression. And thankfully I didn't deal with that. I didn't have family around. It was just me and my husband and the kids. We lived in Alabama at the time. And again, she was born healthy, great. She was about 3 weeks early, or not quite 3 weeks early. So was Colin. And I'm just so thankful. What a difference between those pregnancies, and what a difference between their immune systems as babies, of how many times I took Ansley or Brielle to the doctor for being sick. By then, I was nursing, and they got their nutrition through Juice Plus through me, or I gave it to them, like I said, in their baby food or a sippy cup or whatever. This was a huge part of how I began to feed my family, and really shifted from just whatever tasted good, sounded good, was easy, quick, and fast, to what really was nutritious, not just what said nutritious on the box. and like going past what the labeling is, and then finding ways to prepare food that really was a healthy option for them, and just a total difference. So I'll share kind of our updated story in a few minutes, but what's awesome is that, just like Marissa said, it was backed by research. That made a difference to me, because if I was going to give this to my kids when they were little, if I was going to take it when I was pregnant, if we were going to take it long term, it's now been 16 years that we've taken this. I wanted to know, is this just a good idea? I mean, yeah, it sounds good. Let's put some fruits and veggies in a capsule, but like, what do they do? How do we know that it's actually effective? And that's what clinical means. Clinical research means they took these fruits and vegetables, they gave them to people, then they monitored those people, and then we got the results of the studies. It's that's what clinical means. And you can see some of the universities here that have done research on Juice Plus. This isn't in-house research that Juice Plus did. These are third-party independent studies of us showing that what's in the body, in those capsules, actually goes to work in your body. And when you look at what those results were, this is where it gets really encouraging. And remember, when I started, there were 7 studies. Now we have 38, with about 4 to 6 more that are going to be published soon. So here's what the research has found, that it's actually bioavailable. So Sarah touched on the fact that vitamins are not bioavailable, that you at best absorb 8% of them. To know that Juice Plus was bioavailable, it shows up, the nutrients show up in your bloodstream within hours of taking these capsules. And so that was whole food nutrition, not chemical nutrients that were showing up, but the nutrients from that food. So your intestines are able to use that and break it down in very easily digested form through those tiny particles of that dried fruits and veggies. And Juice Plus contributes to cardiovascular wellness. That's our #1 killer in America. And I hear so many people that say, you know, heart disease is just genetic. It's part of our family. My dad had high blood pressure. My grandpa did. My mom had high cholesterol. My grandpa and my dad all died of a heart attack early. You know, it's just kind of in the cards for me. And I want to encourage you that that's not always the case. We know that 75 to 85% of disease is preventable through good nutrition. And so, yes, the genetic code may be there, but that doesn't mean that that genetic code cannot be influenced, because it can be influenced, either good or bad, by what you eat and your lifestyle. So a lot of times families continue eating what their parents taught them. They have the same mindset about food, the same mindset about health, same mindset about medicine, or, you know, just of how they take care of themselves. And they're not really paying attention to the preventative side. It's easy just to say, well, it's just genetic and there's nothing I can do about it. But that's not true, because we know that that code can be turned on and turned off. And actually, one of these studies that was done on Juice Plus was a nutrigenomic study looking at exactly that. They were looking at genetic markers of when these people took Juice Plus. And in less than a month, of the 2,000 genes they were looking at, there was a positive expression of 1,632 of those in less than a month. I mean, it really can be quick. So it's never too late to start eating healthy and to really incorporate this into your family's life. The big one for us was immune system. That's what we saw change. So remember I said Colin was sick often. We started to see that he wasn't getting as sick. It wasn't lasting as long. It was further in between illness. So now at age 17, he's gone to the doctor. Well, it's been 15 years since I've taken him to the doctor for being sick. Like, that's drastically different. So if he was like 15 months when we started taking it and he's 17 now, I mean, it was within 6 months that we stopped going to the doctor all the time for everything. For the girls, I've taken them 2 times in 13 years for being sick. And it's not that we don't catch something. It's if they do, it's short-lived. It doesn't turn into anything secondary. I found other ways to treat it at home to where it doesn't increase and get worse and worse. And nutrition plays a role in preventing that, because Marissa's story, her immune system came back to balance after taking Juice Plus. That's what those immune health studies show. And when your body's in balance, it can handle the autoimmune disorders, come back to balance. It can handle the underactive immune system, like my husband who had pneumonia 4 years in a row. Back to balance is able to deal with those issues without it becoming more and more severe, and also helping your body to be able to repair from those. So, all these different studies. The other one I'll mention is the chronic, supporting healthy inflammatory responses. So reducing systemic inflammation overall. Chronic pain is caused by inflammation, whether that's in your joints, that you can feel that in Marissa's daughter's wrist. That's what rheumatoid arthritis is. That's what that fluid is. It's inflammation that was causing that pain and that bone to degenerate. That's what chronic pain is, or chronic inflammation. It can show up in your brain, in your mouth, in your gums with bleeding gums and deep pockets. Can really show up in a lot of areas. And we know the higher your inflammation rate is, the higher your risk of disease is overall. So when you're looking at the research in Juice Plus, these are very practical things that many different families fear or are dealing with on a daily basis. This is real help for real families, and it's really pretty quick. Most of these studies were done within a month to maybe 6 month time. To be able to see these drastic of changes is just very, very encouraging. And so, as you're thinking future, taking this for the future and thinking of your family long term, this is where change is made. When I look at my family now and to think how far we've come from that time, it's just so encouraging to know we've made changes that have changed us. Juice Plus is effective. It does make a difference, and it does matter, and it matters long term. This was never a quick fix for us. We were looking for long-term solutions. We were looking for disease prevention long term as well. So I was in my early 20s at the time. I'm now 40. I knew that my 40-year-old self would thank me for saying yes to this all those years ago. And I promise you, mamas, I am so thankful I was somehow smart enough to catch what this was and that we said yes. And when I say Juice Plus helped give me hours back in my day because I wasn't so tired I had to take a nap, it gave my husband back his life. And in so many ways, I feel like it gave our family, our relationship back to each other. Jarrett had pneumonia 4 years in a row before we heard about Juice Plus. He caught everything, and everything turned into prolonged sickness and illness and just frustrating. We lived in Boston at the time. He didn't want to go do anything. He just wanted to sleep on the weekend so he could get through the next week. And he was grouchy most of the time, just didn't enjoy life very much. And thankfully, a couple years later, we heard about Juice Plus and we implemented that into his diet. His was not overnight. His gut system was wrecked from all those antibiotics. He needed time to repair. He didn't see results right away. But over time, 6 months in, we could see changes were happening. There were positive things taking place. We knew, let's keep going, let's keep going. 8 months in, definitely seeing changes, and he was feeling a lot better. A year into it, night and day difference. In all of these years, he's never had an upper respiratory infection again. Again, I say, Juice Plus changed his life, and it gave us back a new starting point for our marriage and our relationship. That when you're dealing with someone in your family that's chronically ill, it affects everyone, whether you're the one as the mom that's sick, your kids are sick and not healthy, or your husband is unwell. And it's really, just reminds me of the fact that what else are we going to do? We've got to take control of our health. Nutrition is one aspect of it because we don't have anywhere else to live. We've got one body, one chance to get this right and to be, making a difference by what we're eating. And I just want to encourage you, what you're feeding your family and what you're doing to stay well, it absolutely makes a difference. And so don't lose hope. Don't give up. take care of your body, and especially as mamas, we don't. We take care of everyone else and we put ourselves last, but we don't have to do that. Juice Plus is an easy solution. It's an easy and effective solution and very affordable. Comparing to what we used to pay in medical bills, it doesn't even touch it. I would pay 3 times what I pay for Juice Plus because I'm never going back to being sick like that again. So we just wanted to thank you for being on here with us, for learning with us. And ask the person that invited you into this group for more information. Ask them. We've got tons of resources to send to you and share with you. And we're going to be sharing even more over the next couple of days, all the way through the 21st. And you can always come back to this event and watch the videos that we're going to be sharing. Dive in, learn with us, because you matter. You matter as a mama. Your family needs you, and we're here to help. So thank you guys so much for sharing your afternoon with us.